Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have you ever thought about reprogramming your mind for success with a little bit of magic? Well, that's what this episode's all about. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. Business Bros, he lost everything after leaving his home country, but instead of giving up, he dove deep into the power of mindset, illusion, and universal laws. Now he's living the life he once only dreamed of. Mentored by Bob Proctor and teaching others to create real magic, let's welcome to the show, Mr. Anders Hansen. Now the party can begin. Welcome to the show.
I love it. That is awesome, Herman.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You got quite the skill, the illusions, the magic. There's so many different things that are out there, especially when it comes to illusions. It's not always what they seem to be. In your case, give me a little bit of background story. And what do you actually mean by illusions today?
Yeah, Hernan, 100%. We'll dive deep into it. But first, thank you so much for having me on. I've listened to your show and I love how you blend powerful conversations with really tangible tools. It's not often you see a space that values both strategy and soul. So I really appreciate what
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And for the ones listening, do me a favor and leave a 5-star review for Hernan and the team. I just did the same thing today, and in that way you will get your message further out to the world.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so you know how a lot of mission-driven business owners, they want to scale, they want to create better income, obviously, more impact in the world, but they want to do it without burning out and compromising their integrity and who they are. Tried a ton of strategies, a lot of to-dos, and nothing really feels aligned or sustainable. That's where I was, and I learned that through my own work of being an illusionist, that we have all these mind patterns, these mental illusions that are blocking us from actually achieving the results that we desire. And so today I help conscious entrepreneurs and leaders change how they lead and grow without the hustle and the hype, using my framework from illusion to integration. So we actually want to go deep into first getting rid of the illusions and then integrating a new version of ourselves that actually is in alignment with our goals and where we want to go. But that's obviously not where it started for me.
Now, let's be clear. There's also magic involved here. There's a little bit of the fun play, the magic illusion that we're talking about, that people love to enjoy as far as entertainment. But what we're talking about is more of, these things, these overcoming limiting beliefs, these illusions that we place in front of ourselves, correct?
Correct, Hernan. And that's what I realized after having performed magic and illusions for 20 years. I realized that we actually deceive ourselves the most with the way we're wired. And when I crashed with my health in the entertainment industry after having left Denmark 19 years ago, rebuilt my career, traveling the world, doing 8 shows on average a week, I crashed completely and realized it was my own mental patterns that took me there. And I got really fascinated with personal development and how we actually deceive ourselves. So today I use magic and illusions to help rewire the way we think, to inspire us to think differently, and then apply tangible tools to help us get to where we want to go. And it's been a great journey. I now lead a team of conscious, wonderful team members, and we've done a little over $12 million in business so far. We've helped 10,000 people globally. So it's been a great journey.
10,000 people is quite the accomplishment. I mean, I know I find joy in helping one person. To be able to help 10,000 people kind of change their lives, that's amazing. Now, you've worked with so many people. What would you say is like the most common illusion that people have or live with, and they don't even realize it?
Right. There's actually 5 predominant illusions that either one of us falls into one of those 5 buckets. And That is part of the framework that I'm going to be giving your listeners today, where they can actually do an assessment that will show them which one. But as an overarching thing, we have to understand that illusions are something we create for ourselves on a daily basis. The more assumptions we have as human beings, the more illusions we have. That's why it's really hard to perform magic for children sometimes, because they see straight through it. They're not as programmed as we are. Here's an example. Here you see a multi-dimensional domino brick. On this side, you see one dot. You've seen domino bricks before, right?
Yes.
So this is a multi-dimensional one. It will show you the concept of how our assumptions create our reality. So we don't see with our eyes, we see with our patterning. We see with cells of recognition in the brain. One dot on this side, we have 4 dots on this side, we have 3 dots on that side, and we have 6 dots on that side. And then you go, like, how the heck did that happen, right?
Yeah.
That's strange. What happened was your mind created an illusion on your behalf. You finished a pattern. Your eyes didn't, your mind did. Your mind finished a pattern on your behalf. You either saw 3 dots or you saw 1 dot. You've never seen domino bricks like this before, so your mind didn't see it. It's the same with reality. We're programmed with limitations, and therefore that's all we see. Or we're programmed with opportunity in a certain other area of our life, and then that's what we see in the external world. Of course, the same holds true on that side. You saw 6 dots or you saw 4 dots. You didn't see this pattern. You've never seen domino bricks like this, therefore you didn't see it. Now, my job is to continue to challenge those assumptions. And if I've done that right, you will now see 3 dots on this side, and you will see 8 dots on that one.
Yes, very well done. And I 100% agree with you. That's kind of the fascination with magic and illusions is you're changing someone's perspective right in front of them. They don't realize that you're doing it to them. Their eyes are perceiving something that their mind doesn't really quite understand. And I think when people are really struggling, they also have a perception that needs to be adjusted at some point, and they don't quite understand what's going on. They see what's in front of them, the struggles that they have, but shifting that mindset is a little tough. You hit rock bottom. You were performing on cruise ships, going around the world. How did you identify that illusion, that mindset shift that you needed to do to shift and make the transformation?
Great question, Hernan. I'm actually going to take you back a little ways. When I arrived here in the United States, I had nothing but 2 suitcases and a deck of cards with me. I started performing magic for tips at local restaurants and bars here in Miami. I quickly got my work visa approved, so I went from that to performing regularly. And in a year, somebody gave me the book, The Power of Your Subjective Mind, or Your Subconscious Mind, by Dr. Joseph Murphy. I started reading that book, started applying the principles, and a year later I was doing the big shows on cruise ships and television, did shows for Univision, 15 million viewers and all of that stuff. Did that really quickly, but I burned myself with my health, because I was running with the illusion that I had that association in my mind, which you probably can recognize as an entrepreneur. Time is money. We hear it all the time. It's the biggest, most expensive lie we've been told. Time is not money. Time is infinitely more valuable than money can ever become. So, but we run faster, work harder, with the illusion that that's going to take us through the promised land, to the goals that we've set. But obviously it's not. And that's what happened to me. So that's when I started waking up, because I realized all the lies I was told growing up just weren't true. Like, you got to work hard and then you're going to get somewhere. I worked hard and I got nowhere. And I saw people around me who had great results. And at that point, I ran into my late friend and mentor, Bob Proctor, and he started coaching me on these. And he was fascinated with illusions too, and we started talking about it. There's only 3 ways to impress the mind, Hernan. There's fascination, agreement, or shock. Now, we rule out shock. That leaves fascination and agreement. So with the magic in our award-winning Real Magic Live seminars, we open up the mind with the fascination of the magic, and then we make agreement with the concepts that we teach. And in that way, the message sticks to a point where you can't forget about it. And that's how and why it's so effective.
I think there are a lot of people who find themselves in very similar situations, and they turn to different places. They turn to books where they get to learn. Now we get to turn to podcasts where we get to learn from professionals. Rarely do we get to meet mentors and learn directly from the authors of these types of books. You got to meet Bob Proctor. He got to be a mentor of yours. What did that mentorship teach you that no book could possibly teach you?
You know, that's such a great question. I have goosebumps just with you asking that, because when you are in a good when you're being mentored by someone who is the best at their game, and Bob certainly was, for 60 plus years, he taught millions of people. And he wasn't just my mentor, he actually became a really close friend. And when he passed a few years ago, obviously it was a huge loss, but here on the physical plane, he's still with us in the spiritual realm, of course. But what you really experience is a belief about yourself that shifts. I didn't believe in me when I started. I was buried in debt. I had $50,000 stupid debt. I was sick. Nothing worked. And Bob asked me, what do you really want? And I said, I just want to get rid of the debt. He's like, no, what do you really want? And I said, well, I want freedom then. I want to travel and I want to do what I love. And he goes, if you do exactly what I'm telling you, you can have anything you want. I didn't believe it. I did not believe it, but I believed he believed in that. So I did exactly what he told me, and I started believing in it because he believed in it for me. That was probably the biggest shift. 11 months later, I had turned $40,000 a year, which was the most I'd ever earned, into $40,000 a month. I turned my annual income into my monthly income in 11 months. And then we took it over, obviously $1 million and further than that. But not by working harder, by keep working on getting rid of those mental illusions and strengthening my self-image as a concept. So the most important part was the proximity and the way he was able to coach and the belief I could borrow from him. But as a concept, one of the strongest, most powerful teaching lessons was the lesson around self-image and our emotional conception of ourselves. Because as entrepreneurs, you can never surpass it. You can run fast, you can gather a lot of information. That's never going to do the trick. It's what you believe you're worth subjectively on a subconscious level that's going to do it. And by keep adjusting that, working on your mental attitude, the mental attitude, by that I mean the combination of thoughts, feelings, and actions. So another powerful concept he taught was this one. I don't know if you can see it. He called it the stick person. Large circle is your mind, small circle is your body. The mind is divided in two parts. We have the conscious and the subconscious mind here, and then the body. Now, why is this important? We need an image to have a full comprehension. Nobody has ever seen the mind. Mind is energy. You can't find mind in the brain either, but we have to understand it with an image. And once we do, we have clarity. And when there's clarity in here, there's clarity out there. He drew this for me on a little napkin when we met the first time. I thought it was silly. He said, Anders, this concept has changed millions of lives, revenues and companies to the tunes of billions of dollars, because people started to understand themselves just a little bit better. And that is some of the high level lessons, Hernan, that was very powerful.
That whole concept of being able to see it, visualizing and making it come true is so powerful. There are a number of times, and I've done this in my own personal life. One, for example, I was taking a marketing course with one of my mentors, Billy Jean's marketing, and it was a 16-week course. And he mentioned at the beginning that one person's going to be noted and as the top student and present at the stadium when they do the graduation, all those different things. And I remember that day saying, that's going to be me. And for the 16 weeks, I visualized what I was going to say on that stage, how I was going to walk up there. I saw it in my mind's eye before it even happened. And sure enough, that's what ended up happening. It was like when it was called out, because it was a surprise, nobody knew who it was going to be. I kind of knew already this was going to happen. And and ever since, stuff like that, right now I'm currently like working on getting a six-pack. I can see it already happening in my mind. Right. So it's going to become a reality. 100%. And you guys have, you saw Bob Proctor. I believe he was in the law of attraction as well. And I remember looking at that and hearing it and watching it and seeing so many people impressed by it. But I think they fail to realize that there's also the visualization is very important, but the action behind it also has to come through. You have to have the belief that you can do it and then have the courage to take the action. What's that real work behind manifesting that new life, behind visualizing? Because you said, Bob sat with you and asked you, what do you want? That sounds simple, but it's to me one of the most difficult questions to really answer.
No, 100% it is. And it is a great question as well, the one you're posing now. So the real work happens and it was left out in The Secret. And you're right, Bob was in The Secret that highlighted the law of attraction. But like he often said afterwards, and The Secret impacted 500 million people. So, a lot of people woke up to that concept. But like Bob often said, it was a very shallow explanation. The law of attraction is secondary. It's a secondary law. It's secondary to the primary law of the law of vibration. The law of vibration decrees that nothing rests. Everything is in a constant state of change. And you attract based on what you're in harmony with, not what you think alongside, but what you're in harmony with emotionally. And that's the missing link. And that's what we keep using in our illusion to integration framework, because it starts here, like you say. Yes, we got to set a goal. In my case, back then when I was burned out, I wanted to work with the best in the world in personal development. That was the goal. I didn't put a name to the person. I just said the best in the world. And you can measure that in many different ways. But I started here with that concept. When I got subjectively, emotionally involved in it before it happened, I didn't know what I had done, but every day I was just so grateful to work with the best in the world. I had an eviction notice on my door. I was buried in debt. Nothing worked. But that's not what I saw. I was anchored in that emotion. Now, that changes the way the body acts and vibrates. We're a bunch of molecules in a high speed of vibration, and our thoughts combined with our emotions dictates our vibration, the state we're in. And that's the key. Because now you start acting differently. You take inspired action. You take massive action. It doesn't feel like force anymore. It feels effortless. But the most important part, you start attracting from a different frequency. And that's when the magic happens, literally. Like New Year's Eve 2016, my partner was going to go to work in Louis Vuitton in Bellagio. And it was unusual for me to hear him say that, because he didn't really like his work at that point. But my intuition kicked in and told me to go and pick him up and go an hour early. And that didn't make any sense. So now my intuition was debating my intellect. But I parked my car, went around, walked around, and I ran smack into Bob Proctor. And I mean, what are the odds, right? And I asked him afterwards, what are the odds? And he was like, well, it couldn't have been any different. And to me, it was like, well, how can it couldn't have been any different? He said, it's an absolute certainty. Time and space are illusions. When you are anchored in what you want and you create focus on it, but you have to see it. It has to be very clear, a very complete picture. And you get emotionally involved, time and space cease to exist, and you attract, even if you have to attract somebody from the other side of the planet, it's an absolute must. It's not if it happens, it's just when it happens. And like you said, with the example you gave earlier, you had this knowing, you had this certainty that it was done. You didn't think and hope that it would be done. You knew it was done, and therefore it was done. And I think that's where most people go wrong. Then something happens and it wasn't belief in the first place. It was shallow belief. You gotta have that. You gotta build that deeper knowing. And how do we do that? We prime ourselves. We live into it through an immense sense of gratitude on forehand. And that can be challenging. I get that, which is why we're giving away these tools today to your audience to help them with this process, because it's not easy. It's simple. It's not easy.
Now, there are going to be a lot of people who feel like they need to make a change. They realize that things aren't going right. I need to maybe reprogram the way my subconscious mind is working, but they don't absolutely know that first step. Asking themselves things like, what is it that I want, isn't always, again, the easiest question to move forward. If someone wants to reprogram their subconscious mind, what's that first step that they should take?
So they got to get clear on what they want first. It's not enough just to say, I want to rid myself of limiting beliefs, or I want to get rid of this and that. You got to get clear on what you want. The brain and your whole system needs leadership. And in the Real Magic Reset kit that we're going to be giving away, there is a whole goal template where you can actually go through 13 tips from Bob and myself in terms of how to get clear on it. But that's the first step. That's the foundation. And it's very hard. Like you said earlier, it's really not easy sitting down and actually deciding on what you want, because there's so many things we would want. But we got to get clear on what the most important thing is first. And once we do that, we can start building on the tools and prime ourselves daily to live in the right mental and emotional state. And that will change our behavior. That will change our results fairly quickly. And we've seen that in our community. I mean, we've had entrepreneurs who literally went from 100,000 a month to 1 million in a month in a very short amount of time. I've done the same multiple times. It's not harder. It just takes discipline mentally. It's not hard work either. It just takes an open-mindedness, and it takes, like I said, discipline, which is just the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. It's pretty simple as well, not just that easy.
Now, I know with the entrepreneurial space, whenever you write a plan, it never goes to plan, right? You have an objective in mind, but things in life happen, and you know where you intended to go isn't always where you end up. However, you learn more, you become different while you're on that journey. And then I've also heard things like fake it until you make it. How much of that kind of plays into defining what it is that I want and having that clarity, but also understanding that things kind of might change along the way?
Things always change, but the goal never changes. I change, my perception change, my awareness certainly changes. Awareness is what we're after. Knowledge is, we're drowning in knowledge today. That's not what we need more of. We certainly don't need more strategy either. What we do need, though, is a more solid mindset. It's 95% mindset, 5% strategy. And I think that is missed by most entrepreneurs. You look at research about why business crash, like there's studies been made, up until 50% within the first 3 years, 5 years, business gone out of business again. But it's not the external factors. You will see studies pointing to external factors. It was the market, it was the leads, it was the bank, it was the investor. None of that was the defining factor. It was contributing factors, sure, but the most important factor is the owner's mindset. I had a client who in 2020, when the whole world went nuts, his business was shut down, and he said, "This is going to be the best year I've ever had." That was very illogical. How can you just say that? You can't just say that. People thought he was nuts. But he had been in our program for a while, and he said, "No, I guarantee you, this is going to be the best year I've ever had." He had 3 bankruptcies behind him. There was a lot of emotional trauma in that, but he had worked enough with himself to understand that he could choose. And when 2020 wrapped up, he wrapped up the year with the best results he's ever had in 25 years. Like, how does that happen? I mean, there were certainly external factors that was pushing against him, but his inner knowing that the power that it resides within us always remains greater than the circumstances around us. That is always a great thing to remind ourselves. And then, of course, getting to work with our mental tools.
You co-created The Secret to Real Magic with Bob. You got a number of core principles in there. What's the one core principle from that program that you think every entrepreneur should understand today?
Oh, it's 100% the importance of inner leadership and self-image. A business cannot grow beyond the self-image of the owner. And it's such a crucial and overlooked aspect. People that do work on self-image, they exponentially raise the bar. They create quantum leaps in a very short amount of time, not by working harder, by building a new mental frame that they see the world through. Self-image was really a groundbreaking discovery back in the 60s when it was first brought to light. And it was since referenced as the biggest psychological breakthrough back in the 60s. And it's important. That's a big part of it. Inner leadership, inner truth, and mental attitude. So in our reset kit that we're going to be giving away, we will actually also include, and my paid clients are going to maybe flip on this, but we're going to include the first entire lesson from Secret to Real Magic in the Real Magic Reset Kit, because it centers around mental attitude and how you adjust your thinking and your emotional state and your actions to align. And that is another really strong core principle.
Self-image, the way you described it, what's the difference between that and building like a personal brand, having those core values for your brand align with your overall messaging? I was having a conversation the other day with a marketer, and he was literally saying, your brand and that core value that you set for yourself is what guides your entire company. It's what guides people forward, especially when you have when you are a leader and you have a team that you are leading, so that everybody's kind of on the same page. Your sales team is answering in the same way. Those things are valued and important. How does that relate to that self-image?
I love that. That's such a great question. We have a set of values that we lead with as a team, and we go over them every team meeting, every week, multiple times a week. And they are derived from my core values. And I would encourage a person to go through those values and build that into the self-image. Now, if somebody needs inspiration, then look at somebody that have results that you want and emulate what you believe to be their belief system about themselves. Is a good place to start. And that might be very far from where we're at right now, and that's okay. What we experience often is once we start working with this new self-image, it feels like a lie in the beginning. There's part of the old mindset that want to reject it because it's very far, hopefully, from where we are now, and that's a good thing. But we go from that feels like a lie, that can't be true, to could be something about it, and one day we'll find we're standing in the middle of it and realizing what the heck happened. It's because we're subjectively changing behavior at the root, and that's what we want to do. That's the real change, and I love the idea to bring that in harmony with our values in the business.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a lot of self work that you kind of have to go through. That's part of the whole, what do I want, and aligning yourself and kind of really doing that deep work. But once you have that laid out, it's so clear what that next step is going to be. There's you're not clouded by anything else, not distracted by any of those other shiny objects, because you know exactly where you're trying to go. You've already put that address in the GPS, and now it's just taking you from point A to point B without really thinking about it, and it makes it so much easier. Now, we've teased everybody on the stuff that you're going to get, that the first lesson from The Secret to Real Magic. People are interested in making that transformation. Tell me a little bit about how people can reach out, have a conversation with you, and find out more about what it is you have to offer.
Yeah, thank you, Hernan. I appreciate it. So if you're listening here, you are high-performing entrepreneur, you want to create a breakthrough to the next level without burning out, with keeping your sanity and your clarity, then what I'm about to share with you is really something that will help you get there. And it's not just another free tool and resource. There's real depth here, and it works. It could be very well the next step to breaking through to that next level. And the first aspect of it is a self-assessment, is an illusion-breaking self-assessment that you can take that will help you identify what the biggest illusion is in your mind that prevents you from that breakthrough. So before we start charting the course about where we want to go, we also first need to realize where we are. So that's the first step, is really understanding what it is that limits us and uncover that one invisible belief that's been secretly holding us back in a way, so you can finally see the next level in the horizon. And that shift alone will help unlock some clarity for sure. And the next thing is we're going to give away a video with Bob Proctor and I going into depth about goal and goal setting, why it's important. We'll also help with a goal card template that you can cut out and have on you. It's a template that actually sums up your goal, that helps impress that upon your subjective mind. And what we also will provide is a morning priming routine that helps raise your frequency, that will help you manifest much quicker. And then, of course, the first lesson to Secret to Real Magic, which is all around mental adjustment. It's our magic mindset blueprint, and it's really powerful. And you'll learn how to integrate that new quantum leap goal with your state, with your new mental and emotional state. And I guarantee it won't exist anywhere else. It's something we've actually specifically put together for your listeners, Hernan. So everyone has to do is to find me on social, Instagram or Facebook at Real Anders Hansen. That's REAL. Oh, it's underneath there. You're so good. Yeah, Real Anders Hansen. And just DM us the word Business Bros, or comment Business Bros on one of our posts, and we'll send you all this. And it will also have a link to speak to one of our team members, should that be of interest.
There's so much power, ladies and gentlemen, in having that clarity. And I get it. If you've never done work like this, it sounds bizarre. It sounds crazy, but I promise you, if you've ever been around someone who's successful, you're in the room, you're hanging out with, networking with people, and then that one person walks in the room and you can tell it's a little bit different. They have an aura about them. There's a vibe around them. They just ooze success, and you don't know what it is. I'm telling you right now, they've done that work. They've already assessed it, and you're sensing their clarity in that room. That's what you want to work towards. And Anders is giving you the ideal opportunity to get yourself set up. All you guys got to do is find them on social at Real Anders Hansen. And I am going to spell it because some of you might not be watching. You might just only be listening. So it's REALANDERSHANSEN. Find him on social, send him a DM, Business Bros, and then get started. You might get information. Don't let it sit in your inbox. Start to take action. I promise you, future you will be so grateful you took action. Just like when Anders was saying at the beginning of the show, when he came to this country, he had nothing, struggled, health bad. Soon as you start to realign yourself, I'm not saying those things disappear instantly, but there's a completely different way that you approach the world, and you'll feel much better about doing it. You ever hear that saying that, you love what you do, you never work a day in your life? Well, it's not true. You're still going to work, but you're going to really enjoy the work that you do. You're going to be in that flow state, and you're going to understand you're going to be that person who walks in the room with the aura. You're going to have the magic in you for sure. Anders, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Any final thoughts before we head out?
Absolutely. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's all the illusions of who you think you're not.
So powerful, because you're absolutely true. We always, who we think we're not. I love that. That's an illusion we all put up. And then we don't really look in the mirror and admit it. But 100% once we get that clarity, it works. All right. At Real Anders Hansen. Find him on social media. Send him a DM. Business Bros, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we got for you guys today. Anders, thank you very much for being on the program. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.